how much did this put the Bucks in the driver's seat in the Eastern Conference until Drew Holiday was traded to the Celtics this morning?
It was well, I think those two teams to me, and you're gonna disagree because you will always believe in the Heat, no matter how many starters and rotation players they lose from the playoff run.
When they stop making the finals, I'll stop believing in them. How about
To
that?
me, the Bucks and Celtics are on a different tier than the rest of the East.
Yeah.
I think Dame just totally changes what the Bucks can do offensively. It should unlock parts of Giannis's game, which is frightening because he doesn't really need anyone to unlock him. So the fact that now you're going to have to send two to his pick and roll ball handler and leave him with an open lane to the basket is just petrifying. And then the Celtics went out and got Holiday, and they gave up a lot to get him.
Mm-hmm.
Like they had to give up Malcolm Brogdon, who was sixth man of the year, and Robert Williams, who is a huge, huge piece of their defense and has been the guy who kind of lifts their ceiling when he's on the court the last couple of seasons. But to add Drew Holiday to that closing lineup is just going to make such a big difference. And the fact that you can have Holiday with Kristaps Porzingis next to Tatum and Brown and Derek White, that's going to be awesome. And the fact that the two teams both did it, that Milwaukee inadvertently helped Boston, that they're both kind of set up to test each other in their the other team's vulnerabilities. Like Dame shooting from so far out will really, really put a lot of stress on Kristaps Porzingis in the Celtics defense. And then Milwaukee's weakness right now is probably perimeter defense. And when you don't have a ton of big wings and athletic wings to guard Tatum, Brown, and Porzingis, it's just going to be an issue. So I love that these teams are set to clash, and I love that the East kind of went bonkers in the last week before training camps begin. When does that ever happen where there's this much trading action right before the season with huge, huge trades of teams that are going to be involved in the title race? I love it. I'm so happy. Except
Eric,
they ruined my football Sunday. It was my last football
really
Sunday
wasn't the
before the
Patriots?
season
You're wearing
started.
that horrible Patriots jersey. It wasn't the Patriots ruining
They
your football
wouldn't
Sunday?
even let me watch the Patriots get bludgeoned by the Cowboys in peace.
I mean, it's for the best that you don't watch much
Yeah,
more of
you-
McCorkle.
You don't want to
I
watch
did not
Michael
watch.
Jones,
I did not
who
watch
you once
one Mac
called the
Jones
truth.
interception
Who
today.
you once called the truth. Eric, how? I mean, it's got to be deflating for the city of Milwaukee to wake up to this Drew Holiday news this morning because they're top of the East and now not so much. Obviously, like let's touch on Dame before we get into the beef of all this. Dame, Jay said that he can unlock things in Giannis's game, and I looked it up. Like Giannis has made 82% of his shots inside of 3 feet over the last 3 years, and he's taking and like 45% of his shots come within 3 feet of the rim. How many more dunks can he get? I don't like. He said unlock, and maybe he's right. I'm not doubting. I'm just like he can't get more dunks. How is that even possible?
Yeah, I mean, I wrote about it this week, but it's kind of insane to think about like the ways in which the floor is just going to get stretched apart. Like Dame is going to take teams out to 30 feet in literally the whole goal of defending Giannis for the last 5 years is build a wall as strong as possible 5 feet in front of the rim. Mm-hmm. And that's all you can do. And if you have to do both of those things at the same time, there's going to be a lot of space in the middle of the floor that you're going to have to make some tough decisions. And ultimately, yeah, I'm guessing most teams will say, all right, we're not going to give up dunks, so Dame shoot 30-footers. But I will say I've seen Dame Lillard hit a whole bunch of 30-footers.
He's pretty good at those, yeah.
he's pretty good at them.
Remember when Paul George said it was a bad shot? Yeah, that was a bad shot.
Look, we gave Paul George a lot of shit about that, but to be fair, it was a sidestep 38-footer. Like it is.
Great shot.
It's not a great shot.
You can do it.
But like that's the whole thing, right? Like that's going to be the whole struggle of going against the Bucks is like those two are such extreme examples of dominating at the rim, dominating from behind the 3-point line that, I mean, the Bucks are just going to be impossible to cover. And yes, there is the downgrade of losing Drew Holiday. And I do think there was a lot of Bucks fans out there that were like, please God, Blazers, do not flip this dude to someone in the East. And they did. and they flipped him to the Celtics. Like the one team that, like, if you don't, like, you're gonna have to go through the Celtics. That's kind of how this has been set up for the Bucks for years now, is like, you got to beat the Celtics, and that's the team that gets Drew Holiday. And I would guess Drew Holiday will be quite motivated to go.
Well, so I've thought for a few years, and especially when Marcus Smart won the Defensive Player of the Year award, but to me, like, you know, whenever you talk to anybody, it's not that people like dismiss Marcus Smart's defensive ability. He's obviously very good at defense, but whenever you talk to any player, you're like, who's a defender you just hate going against? And Drew is always like one of the first names, if not the first name. And so when they lose Marcus Smart because of the Malcolm Brogdon physical, right? Because we remember like Malcolm Brogdon was supposed to be in that trade for Porzingis, and they had to quickly rework it. You know, you lose Marcus Smart, and forget the leadership, forget the playmaking, like, defensively, that's a big piece. Even though they still have Derek White and they still have a lot of good defenders, adding Drew back into that mix is big. But if there isn't a great defensive presence protecting the rim, Eric, I do think there's only so much Drew can do. But having him is not a bad thing for the Celtics in any way. Like he's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really fascinating juxtaposition between the Bucks and the Celtics, right? Like, because the Bucks have very little perimeter defense. Their on-ball defense isn't going to be great with Dame. Like, that's not something that he really does. Like, they're going to struggle in that way defensively, but they have Brook Lopez, runner-up for Defensive Player of the Year last year. They have Giannis, one-time Defensive Player of the Year, multiple-time all-defense. Two dudes that are going to destroy at the rim. Like, if you come towards the rim, they are going to just swat your stuff and get you out of there.
Yeah.
On the other side, you have the Celtics, who have all of the perimeter defense, right? Like, any guards are going to be so annoyed playing against Derek White and Drew Holiday every night.
And Jaylen Brown. Let's not forget, like, Jaylen Brown's really good.
For Brown and then Tatum. So, like, they're going to switch and switch and switch. It's going to be a pain in the ass every single time that you play them. But they don't have the rim protection. So to me, it's going to be fascinating to see how it plays out. Like, are the Bucks able to create a good defense with very little perimeter defense? And are the Celtics, like, obviously Porzingis can do a lot of the rim protection. He had a great rim protection year last year. But it's not Robert Williams. Like, Robert Williams was like the guy for that defense. So I do think, I mean, it's going to be interesting.
Although, to be fair, remember, Anthony Edwards did say Porzingis has always been a tougher rim protector for him than Gobert was pre-trade. So, you know, maybe Porzingis is that guy.
That's important.
If he's good enough for him, good enough for me. Yeah.